JB, can you? Oh, thank you. I love it when you anticipate my needs. Welcome to another sold out show at the Velvet Note! Who's that crazy guy behind the camera? The Velvet Note's a place where you can see and hear world-class musicians in a setting that's as intimate and as comfortable as your very own living room. We give you a chance to get to know the musicians and to hear the music the way that it was meant to be heard. We're a listening room. We had our acoustics designed by a protege of the Hollywood director George Lucas, under his guidance, to be the highest quality, unenhanced sound available today. And as of June, we've been here 10 whole years. We would not be here if it were not for the dedication and commitment and brilliance of our very own music director, and that is Justin Barnes. This is the 10th season of something he calls Legends of Jazz, where he gives you kind of a hybrid between a concert and a jazz appreciation or jazz history class. You get a chance to get to know the historical and cultural circumstances that surround some of the greatest jazz artists and greatest jazz albums of our time. And we are so happy to have him continue to do this. It's so popular. Those who subscribe get to pick their seat in the room and get a chance to learn a lot of great things about jazz while enjoying the jazz that they're learning about. It's truly something special. And that is you tonight. In addition to being our music director, Justin is a phenomenal drummer, and he brings with him, as band leader, Grammy award-winning bassist, Kevin Smith. Extraordinary and first call pianist, Louis Haribo. I just have to brag on this next gentleman. You know, Justin doesn't usually have a guitarist in his quartet, so tonight is very special. His guitarist had his first headliner performance here at the Velvet Note when he was a freshman in college. Today, he has achieved something that almost no one does. He is a professional musician. That's what he does. Wow. That's what he does. He teaches at the prestigious Levitt School, and he performs all around. And we're so happy to have him. I asked Justin if he had to pick someone to play the role of Pat Metheny, whose name was also Patrick, and he assured me that that was not the case. Nevertheless, it's with great pride that we introduce tonight, on guitar, Patrick Arthur. You all seem a little subdued. Are you okay? It's hot outside? Okay. Is my voice putting you to sleep? Well, let me get off the stage, shall we? Put your hands together for the Justin Barnes Quartet, performing the music of Pat Metheny!
Thank you all so much. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday evening. That tune was entitled "Bright Size Life," and that's it's a tune that Pat would open a lot of his concerts with. He still opens a lot of his concerts with it. It's the first song off of his debut album, also entitled "Bright Size Life." It's also the first quote-unquote real song that he wrote, which we'll get into later. Pat was born in 1954. He grew up in a suburb just outside of Kansas City called Lee's Summit, Missouri, or excuse me, Missouri, as he calls it. He's from Missouri. And he's this Midwestern kid who grew up. His parents and his brother all played musical instruments. They're a very musical family. He saw the Beatles in 1964 when he was 10 years old and decided then that he wanted to play the guitar. So his parents got him a guitar, and then I think he was about 12 when he got the guitar, and then he just started going to work on that guitar and trying to play it as much as he could. His early influences were the great Wes Montgomery, also heavily obviously influenced by the Beatles and a lot of other great guitar players. And Miles Davis had a great album that came out in 1964 called Four and More, and that was also heavily influential on him. So at 14, he's going to enter a contest for the Downbeat magazine. It's to go to this jazz camp. And so Pat is going to learn a Wes Montgomery solo note for note at 14. He entered the contest. He didn't think he was going to win it, but he ended up winning the contest. And so he's going to go to this jazz camp and meet such jazz luminaries as Marion McPartland. And they're going to be blown away by this kid, and they're going to encourage him to really continue to do this. So he gets really kind of fired up about jazz and playing the guitar. Then he's going to go back to Kansas City, and he's going to start playing gigs around there. He's going to be 16 years old, and the dean of the College of Music at the University of Miami is going to be in Kansas City, and is going to hear this 16-year-old kid play guitar and go, like, yeah, you got to come to Miami. I'm going to give you a full scholarship. I want you to come to the University of Miami next year. So he says, okay, I'll do that. So he goes down to Miami. He's in class for about a week, and he realizes that he basically hasn't been doing anything with his life but playing guitar since about 14 years old. And he did not understand how to study. He didn't understand these math classes he was in. So he came to the dean. It's like, look, I don't know how to be a person other than somebody who plays the guitar. So I can't go to college. I have to turn down your scholarship because I don't know how to take all these classes. And so the dean's response was, well, why don't you just teach guitar for us? So at like 16 or 17-year-old, he starts teaching at the University of Miami. While he's down there, he's going to start playing a bunch of gigs, like on Miami Beach with a bunch of musicians, playing all sorts of random gigs that come through. And he's going to build a friendship with the bass teacher at the University of Miami, who's also out there playing all these gigs with him. Eventually, he's going to meet Gary Burton, the vibraphonist Gary Burton, and Gary's going to have him join his band. I think he's about 17 when he joins, or 16 or 17 when he joins Gary's band. And then Gary, who teaches at the college, at Berklee College of Music, Gary says, why don't you come up to Boston and start teaching guitar at Berklee? So the kid's like not even old enough to vote yet, and he's already like teaching at the University of Miami and Berklee College of Music, which should tell you how good he is. And he's there, and he starts working with Gary Burton. And then Gary Burton signed to a record label called ECM, which is a really big record label in jazz in the 70s and 80s. And Gary said, why don't you make a record, and I'll help you make it. He said, okay, so Pat starts bringing in all this music to Gary Burton. Hey, I wrote this song. And Gary's like, that just sounds like everything else that's out there. Like, that's, keep writing, kid, keep writing. So he just keeps trying to find something new and something that's kind of his own. And he finally brings Gary a song, and Gary says, that's your first real song, because up to this point, I've known everything you've brought into me. You've just ripped off Wes Montgomery for this song, and you've ripped off Miles Davis for this song. But this song, I don't know what this is, so this is a good place to start. And that tune is Bright Size Life, the song that we just played. So Gary's going to say, why don't you, instead of using all these great musicians on the ECM label, you have like a little trio, right, with this guy from this guy from Miami that you brought up to Boston, you should make a record with that trio. That guy was one of the first records he's ever been on as well. That's bassist Jaco Pastorius. So basically, the jazz world got introduced to Jaco because of his friendship with Pat Metheny on this record, Bright Size Life. Now, Bright Size Life has gone on to be one of the most important and influential records of that time. But when it originally came out, it sold 900 copies. Sounds about right. His next record is going to sell 700 copies. Matter of fact, Pat said that there was one. He saw that there was one person from Australia who bought his record, and he was like, "Oh my God, I have one fan in all of Australia." He wanted to write him a letter. So, but obviously things are going to get better for Pat. He's going to go on. He's going to start making more and more records, and things are going to turn around. Right about in the early 1980s, there's a record he did called Off Ramp in 1982, and we're going to do a tune off of that record right now. It's entitled James, and this was one of Pat's biggest influence as well. This is dedicated to the great James Taylor, and you're going to hear some kind of James Taylor-ish stuff in this song. So it's our version of Pat Metheny's James. I hate when I have to read music. I don't know the song. Is that with you, right? Oh no, I told you I didn't know it. That's the top, right? Yeah. Okay. Of course it's the top. All right. There's like 8 versions of this song. That's what we're arguing about. Here we go. 1, 2. That was James. This was Pat Metheny's first Grammy. Is going to be on this album, Off Ramp. It also reached the number 1 on the jazz charts. Also made it on the pop charts. I think number 50 on the pop charts. And this is really kind of what would become indicative of Pat Metheny. He was hugely popular and successful in the jazz world, but he also had a ton of crossover potential, we would call it. A lot of people who didn't listen to jazz normally would go and hear some Pat Metheny concerts. For a lot of reasons, and one of them is this compositional style that Gary Burton kind of forced him into developing. And all Gary did was reject all of the stuff he was sending him that sounded like music that he just, basically was taking from. He'd heard other songs that sounded like that and kind of wrote his own versions. And Gary rejected until it finally sounded something like Pat Metheny. And that something comes from his upbringing. So he's from, as I mentioned, the Midwest. And he plays the guitar, and as much as he loves jazz and Miles Davis and Wes Montgomery and all that, he equally loves artists like James Taylor and the Beatles. And he grew up with the sound of a lot of the music in the Midwest reflects the feel of the Midwest. This vast open skies, and he wanted his music to kind of sound like his childhood, his upbringing. So. A lot of the chords that he would use, instead of being these kind of like dense jazz chords with 5 and 6 and 7 notes that maybe Herbie Hancock or Chick Corea or Keith Jarrett was using, instead he chose to use very simple chords like 3-note chords and things that a guitarist, in his words, he wanted the music to somehow still be relatable to the person who just picks up the acoustic guitar at the campfire and sits around and strums these kind of open chords that everyone can kind of connect with, that sound of the acoustic guitar strumming those kind of simpler chords. So he's going to take that sound, which we've heard in these first couple of tunes, and he's going to continue to build on that. He's also really invested in making sure that the songs he writes are singable. These melodies are something that you can know nothing about jazz and then walk out of here humming or singing some of these songs. That's not by accident. He wanted to make sure his music was relatable to everyone, not just us jazz nerds up here. So we hear that a lot in his next few records. Now, after Off Ramp, he's going to win this Grammy, and then he's going to change record labels off of ECM to a much bigger label called Geffen Records. And Geffen's going to put a lot of money behind Pat Metheny, and it's going to allow Pat to expand his musical palette. His bands are going to get bigger. He's going to get, he's going to get percussionists and vocalists, and the sound is going to get really rich and orchestral, which is pretty cool from a jazz musician's perspective. So one of his biggest albums is going to come out in 1987. It's called Still Life Talking. And we're going to do a couple of songs off of that record for you right now. The title, I believe, Still Life Talking, is a reference to the song we're about to play. The song we're about to play is called So May It Secretly Begin, which is a translation of a German a painter named Paul Klee. He's going to paint this beautiful picture, and Pat was inspired by these paintings. And so he's going to try and write the sound of those paintings down. And so we're going to do a couple songs off of Still Life Talking for you right now. Smitty, my hands are tired. Are your hands tired? See? So often in jazz, it's either the horn player who has to do all the heavy lifting, all these like crazy notes, and we just get to be back here going. But on that tune, it's the other way around. They could just play like half notes, and we're over here. Oh no 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 no. The whole song. So I was just like, don't screw this up, Justin. Just keep it going, keep it going. So that tune was entitled "Last Train Home." It was actually a fairly big pop tune for him. Made it on a bunch of pop radio stations. I knew it growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, because our Publix ran in ads, and this was the song in all of the ads. So I was like, oh. I know, that's the Publix song. So I'm sure Pat loved that. Well, he probably loved the paycheck, so I shouldn't say that. After selling 900 of his first albums, he was like, please take my money. So anyway, so that's Last Train Home, and this really is the sound that captivated probably his largest audience. He's going to stay in this sound for a while. He's gone from just being a trio guitarist like he was for his first couple records. He's going to grow into a quartet. And like I said, by the time he's into Geffen Records, he has a large ensemble with some Brazilian percussionists. He's really starting to expand his sound. And during this era in the mid-'80s, Pat's music is decidedly Brazilian in nature. There's a lot of this great Brazilian music, bossa nova and samba, undercurrent over top of his melodies. I think he really related some of his earlier music trying to find grooves that fit that kind of open sky chord progression stuff that he liked. And I think you really found a home with some Brazilian grooves. So one of his next records he's going to release is entitled Letter from Home, and we're going to do a song that has that decidedly Brazilian feel to it. This is a great tune entitled Better Days Ahead. From Home, 1989. That tune was entitled Better Days Ahead. So Pat, in trying to come up with something new in his younger years, something that was unique to him, he's going to slowly develop and get into this bigger orchestral sound, 8, 10, 12 musicians on stage, really kind of get into the Brazilian influence. And that's going to last for a while, but like all artists, he needs change and he needs to find the next thing that he can't do. As a matter of fact, most of these songs that he has written up to this point they're not exercises per se, but he was trying to find new ways to play melodies and to challenge himself to write melodies with chord progressions that weren't naturally in jazz. So he was constantly pushing himself. Well, the band got big and these great, he would do these rock stadium tours with big, and he still does from time to time, big lights and fog and the whole 9 yards. It was a straight up rock concert. Well, that as an artist, has a shelf life. So after this period in the mid 80s, he's winning all these Grammys. He's basically turned into a rock star. He's going to basically do a 180 and strip everything back down. He's going to start doing solo albums and duo albums with a lot of his heroes. He loves the sound of Ornette Coleman's music. He's going to start doing duo albums with a lot of Ornette Coleman's sidemen. And he's also going to do a trio record about a year after the last song we just played that's going to feature one of his heroes, happens to also be one of my heroes, and that's the great drummer Roy Haynes. They're going to do a trio album with Roy, and he's going to write a song specifically for Roy Haynes entitled Question and Answer. And we're going to do that song for you right now. And what's interesting about the song is a lot of times most songs will have the basic form, and then there's this little part at the very end that's called the coda, just like a little thing kind of puts a bow at the end of the song. Well, Pat's meaning behind the song Question and Answer is that the song is the question, where everything where we have this kind of musical discussion, and then the answer is basically Roy Haynes going nuts over the coda. And if you hear Pat Metheny play the song live, it'll last 20 minutes. Don't worry, we're not going to play 20 minutes for you. It might be close to that. We'll see. The night is young. We'll see how it goes. But listen. After all this, I was having to do. I might stretch out on this one. So here is our version of Question and Answer. Hopefully, an equal amount of question and answer, not too much answer. But here we go. So after all that pretty Brazilian music and pop albums and Publix commercials and the whole nine yards, this album in particular kind of reminded everyone on the jazz scene that Pat Metheny wasn't just this like pretty sounding guitarist, kind of sounds like James Taylor or whatnot, that this guy could really burn it up with some of the biggest and baddest names in jazz, like Roy Haynes and Dave Holland and Ornette Coleman and all these guys. And so this was almost like started a new era. And what's crazy about Pat is he could run this entire like crazy guitar trio thing at the exact same time in one part of his brain, and then do a whole record of that like Pat Metheny group sound, and do a solo record, just acoustic guitar. He's going to go on to cover "Don't Know Why" by Norah Jones. I mean, he has this amazing capacity to live in about 4 or 5 different areas of music, when most musicians can be lucky enough to be successful in one. So off of the sound of this, he's going to build on this a little bit, and in 1996, he's going to put out an album called Quartet, and it's going to feature some more music that sounds like that. And we're going to play a tune for you right now that's kind of in that same sort of vibe. It's a beautiful tune entitled "When We Were Free." Thank you all. When We Were Free. One thing that I like to do with this series is profile musicians and even like, for example, the next person we're going to profile in 2 weeks. The first Sunday in August is the great producer Norman Granz. I like to try and cover as much ground as possible to try to illuminate the music of people who haven't been alive since the 40s and 50s, but also people who are still out there doing it today. And Pat Metheny is certainly one of those. He's got 50 albums out. Matter of fact, he released 2 last year. I basically just sat on my couch last year, and he put out 2 albums somehow during the pandemic. He really should be fined for that. It's not. The rest of us are looking really sad right about now. One's called Side Eye, which is him side-eyeing the rest of us for not doing anything for the last 2 years. What are you doing over there? I'm still making records. Another one, I think it's called Road to the Sun, is the other one that just came out. He's won 20 Grammys, which is just amazing. He's the only artist to have won 10 Grammys in 10 separate categories, which is just amazing. And he clearly shows no signs of stopping, and we're still all, as musicians, trying to catch up with him. But it's been a pleasure to play his music and hopefully introduce some of what makes his music so special. So when you guys go and listen to some of these records, you can hear some of these things, some of these Midwestern, almost like cowboy chord quality on the guitar, and then all that crazy badassery that you just heard that, I can play like James Taylor and also like, John Coltrane at the same time, which is why he has to put out 2 albums every year, apparently. We're going to close out with one more tune. Before we do, please help me thank the guy who's doing all the heavy lifting tonight, Mr. Patrick Arthur on the guitar. On piano, Mr. Louis Huravo. Wearing his right hand out, Mr. Kevin Smith. And my name is Justin Barnes. We are the Jazz Legacy Project. Thank you all so much for coming and spending your Sunday evenings with us. It's something we do not take lightly, so thank you so much. We're going to close out with a tune that he wrote. I told you particularly as his career went on, he became more and more aware of trying to play with and honor the heroes that influenced and inspired him. We've already done that with Roy Haynes. He's going to do another tribute to another great drummer by the name of Elvin Jones. He wrote a tune for Elvin called Timeline, and he got to record and perform it on a Michael Brecker record. This is in 1999, entitled Time is of the Essence. And we're going to do that tune to close it out. It's entitled Timeline. Thank you guys so much. Patrick Arthur, Louis Haribo, Kevin Smith. My name is Justin Barnes. Thank you so much for coming out and spending your Sunday evenings with us. And now here's the owner of the club, Miss Tamara Fuller.
Justin Barnes, Quartet live at the Velvet Notes. Yes. How about that? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We loved having you. And we'd love to have you again. You can find all of our upcoming shows at thevelvetnote.com. I want to mention a couple of things. One is Justin has a new project with Cleveland Jones. And Cleveland is an extraordinary singer. He truly is. And they are putting, kind of like chocolate and peanut butter, they're putting straight ahead jazz and straight ahead jazz chops together with R&B and soul. And it's a unique sound and show that you will be so sorry you missed. So come here 1 week from tonight. I'll be standing here waiting for you. 31st of July. 31st of July. And secondly, I want to mention that it takes a lot to put together a suite of music like this. I hope before you go tonight, you'll let the band know how much you appreciated them, especially young Patrick Arthur. This is what we love to do, which is to bring you closer to artists who inspire you, closer to each other, and closer to the song that's in your heart. Come and see us again. Good night.